Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock for Saturday night, the 4-game slate going on tonight. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I am here with your old pal, EMac. You can find EMac on Twitter at EMac DFS. This show is sponsored by Better, which is spelled BETR. We'll talk about Better a little bit more later on. You should check it out there. It's a new site where you can get your first deposit matched up to 500. Actually, I'm just going to talk about it right now because it's possible we're going to get too into the show later on. I'm going to tell you right now, go sign up for Better because you can take advantage of it tonight, specifically when we have a lot of moving parts on the NBA slate. You can get your first deposit matched up to $500 on Better. It's like other sites where you can choose the over, the under on various picks, but on Better you can up to 100x your entry fee if you go 8 for 8 on your picks. Go check it out right now if you haven't already done so. The link is in the description of this video and in chat. Of course, the legal age for gambling in most states is 21 plus. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Again, it's BETR. Go check it out if you haven't already done so. EMac, before we start the slate, we had an impactful trade today between the Knicks and the Raptors. Do you have any immediate thoughts on feelings about that trade?
I applaud the Knicks for not absolutely getting worked, but it feels like they got the short end of the stick. Now, I don't know if that's because we're wish casting that Isaiah Quickly was getting more run, etc. I think he is the actual best play, the highest upside asset in this, or the best to outperform his particular baseline potential. RJ Barrett and OG Anunoby are similar. Anunoby is much better on defense, but similar enough offensively that that's kind of a wash. I guess that's Masai, I forget how to pronounce his last name, but Humanuri or whatever it is for the Toronto GM. I mean, he watched Fred VanVleet basically walk. You know, it's getting some a little bit of return on this expiring asset, but wasn't he getting offers of like 3 first-round picks 2 years ago for Anunoby, and they didn't want to go there? Does this mean
they should have traded an Anunoby earlier than they did? They made a mistake, I think, by waiting for sure.
Yeah, but aside from that, I think it's kind of a fun deal. It gets at least for tonight, it's gonna really work things around for us. If we notice, the Knicks have been much worse on defense this year than they have in each of the last 5 years, to the point of where over December they had the third worst defensive efficiency for the entire month, allowing somewhere around 120 or 121 points per 100 possessions. I mean, that is not what we're used to seeing from the Knicks. That's sort of what the league has become, but them being the worst or bottom three, that we don't see from Tom Thibodeau teams. So it'll be interesting to see how they employ OG.
Yeah. I think overall, I like the trade better for the Raptors. I think it makes some sense for both sides, but the Raptors, I agree with you. I think Emmanuel Quickly has the most upside of any player in the trade, and RJ Barrett going back to Canada, going back to his roots, could help him, as somebody in chat just pointed out. That is true. Could be good for RJ Barrett. So I really like it for the Raptors, just betting on a couple players that probably have some upside. But for the Knicks, if they think they're going to be competitive, OG Anunoby, probably the best player in the trade right now, I would say. So it does make some sense. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. As you said, though, it does impact this slate already. We got the Knicks on this slate. So we've got some cheaper players as a result of the trade that we'll be able to talk about. We are going to go, so I said it in the tweet, we're going to go game by game here to start through the NBA slate. At the end, we are going to take a look at the NFL slate. We're still going to react to if we get any starting lineups that are different than expected, any news, we're going to make sure that we're on top of everything NBA related. But we do have a number of people that wanted us to talk a little bit about the NFL slate for tonight. We've got Dallas and Detroit, fun NFL game also. So we'll start with some NBA. We'll work our way into some NFL later as well. We're going to start with that game, the Knicks Pacers. That's the only game that is right at lock, and it's a very important game to talk about, obviously, with the value added. You want to start on the Knicks side? That seems like the obvious place to start. Who do you like from the Knicks tonight?
Yeah, that makes sense. So Keaton, sorry, my stupid earphone keeps there. Can you guys hear me? Can you still hear me? No,
I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I was trying to fix my headphone. It was buzzing in my ear. It was bothering. I'm a delicate little flower from time to time, Neil. But here we go. So the New York Knicks, they're a back-to-back for them. It's their a third night in four that they've played, and it is their fifth game since last Saturday. So they're going to have some tired legs, considering they're running a slightly thin on players, but that's okay. They're professional athletes and they're used to playing a lot of minutes from Tom Thibodeau. Last night they lost in Orlando, 117-108. RJ Barrett no longer with the team, but he played 37 minutes. Julius Randle played 36, and Jalen Brunson played 34. Of course, they have dealt Quickly and RJ Barrett, which means we are going to let's see here. We are going to get Quentin Grimes is questionable with an illness. So we know Brunson's going to start. We want to play a lot of him because, of course, this matchup has 248.5 points as the projected total in Vegas now, which is absolutely wild. We would not have thought that 3 years ago with these two squads. However, that's where we are today. It's the highest total on the board. So we're going to want a lot of pieces here. But Jalen Brunson looks very, very good. He has come into his own as a scorer. He made the All-Star game last year. He is just phenomenal. Will be disappointed if he doesn't put up 30 tonight, 30 fantasy, 30 NBA points. The only knock is this is a lot of minutes on these guys in a short period of time. Again, world-class athletes, but it's, we're looking for some tiebreakers here. Julius Randle, perfect matchup for his skill set. He gets to be a little bit too much me first with the ball sometimes, has some defensive lapses, and Tibbs is he's kind of worn out his welcome with Tibbs. But guess what? Is Tibbs really going to be benching him for someone like Jericho Sims? I hope not, but I think Randall's going to be pretty safe today as well. Isaiah Hartenstein, where he is power forward eligible, is a much better play than center only. He was a little bit disappointing last night, but again, he's another guy that sort of by proxy, he should see a boost of about 10% over his recent baseline production. A lot of that's really due to this game environment, though, than the trade. People who are directly impacted by the trade, I suspect we'll see Josh Hart in the starting lineup. The question is, it could be Dante DiVincenzo. My guess is they keep DiVincenzo off the bench, but he's going to play a lot, and he's going to play alongside Brunson, because after that, the only other point guard I believe they have on their roster is McBride, who has played a grand total of 30 minutes this month. Wow. If you wonder how the team feels about him. So even though it's all these games have happened in a short period of time, he hasn't really left the bench. So I think McBride's a dangerous option. I don't think we really need to go there. Quentin Grimes, if he wasn't sick, he could still be in a chance to be a starter. He's made one start this season, but I expect it'll be Josh Hart. But I really like Dante DiVincenzo. I did get in on some of his PRA bets around 20 and a half and 21 and a half, taking the overs. So that I think is, no one's going to go overlooked with just 8 teams in the player pool, but he is someone I don't think is really mentioned in that first breath when all of a sudden you're like, who's going to be handling the ball? And DiVincenzo isn't exactly a point guard, at part can be a secondary facilitator. We've seen Randall, do his thing with, I think he has a career high of like 5.5 or 6 assists one of his seasons. Maybe it was 5.3, but he's an okay secondary passer, etc. But this kind of comes back to Brunson, like never leaving the court, because this is a crucial game. So this should be a fun one. This invalidated our NBA strategy show about an hour and a half after we recorded it. But hey, it's what the NBA is, and this teaches you how to read a slate, which is important because weird stuff's going to happen.
And I've asked Jacob, and I can't tell if he already put it on the screen. I've asked Jacob to put the boom bust on the screen. I see people asking about ownership stuff. Always helpful to have the boom bust tool available. So I've asked Jacob to put that up as well. I can't see if it is on the screen currently, but it will be at some point. Oh, it's on. It's on. Thank you, Jacob. We have, as you said, the Pacers, great matchup for the Knicks. Pacers third in pace of play, third worst in terms of defensive rating so far this year. Also second in terms of pace of play. So just nut matchup here for the Knicks, who are missing some players. They're going to be some of the best values on the slate. And just sorting by value score, our top value overall on the slate right now is Luka, is actually our top value with a 5.9x value score. The next 5 are all Knicks. We have Dante D is our number 2 value on the slate. He's 4,800. We're projecting for about 28 fantasy points, followed by Julius Randle, 8,700. We're projecting for about 51 fantasy points. Quentin Grimes is only 3,100. We're projecting for 18 fantasy points. Isaiah Hartenstein, 5,800. 33 fantasy points, and Josh Hart 5,200, 30 fantasy points. So you can just see how good the Knicks look in this game with two of their better players no longer with the team. So a lot of these guys are getting boosts. Of course, we will get that starting lineup during the show at some point. Or did we already get it? We just got something. Nope. Looks like we're still waiting on the starting lineup for the Knicks. Of course, we will adjust as necessary once we get that starting lineup. Any other notes on the Knicks here, EMac?
No, other than I mean, I do want. It sounded like I didn't say enough about Grimes. Here's the thing. He has a chance to start. I honestly don't know how they're going to play the starting lineup, but I'm feeling a little burned from Lamar. Was it Lamar Stevens yesterday? We had a bunch of friends over. A bunch of our Virginia neighbors were down here in Florida, so they came over. The Oral family came over for dinner, and I had set my lineups and walked across the street to pick up a stack of pizza boxes so we could have lots of food for everybody. And I missed that Lamar Stevens was not in the starting lineup, and then he just didn't play yesterday. I believe I'm remembering that correctly because I had him on like 25% of my lineups. That could happen with Grimes, right? We saw Taylor Norton-Tucker the other day come back from injury, available to play. Team announced he was available to play, and then he never left the bench, right? So I don't think that'll happen with Grimes, but if he is not feeling well, how are we totally going to know that? Could he just play 12 minutes tonight? It's a possibility. If he starts, I still think, he becomes incredibly safe and wildly popular at the near minimum on both of the sites. If he starts, you feel better for about 22 to 24 minutes. And that gets into his 18 fantasy points, right? If he's coming off the bench, those minutes are still that's about, I'm guessing that's about what we're projecting him for the minutes, but we don't know for sure that he's going to play.
We're projecting for 26 minutes currently. Also 70% ownership for Grimes currently. So
again, I'm presenting the counter argument downside because I could totally see this being, you guys said he was the best. Oh, who did we say was the best play the other night?
It was the Charlotte guy, backup point guard who never saw the court.
And didn't I say, I believe my things was, you said, oh, he's going to get minutes. He should be a good play. And I believe my quote was, is he really?
Okay, whoa. I never said he was going to get minutes. I said we had him projected for minutes.
Yeah, no, exactly. I played him on 70% of my lineups. It is, but it's
Book
one of those.
That's right. James Booknight, Josh Gillum.
Is he really good? Is Quentin Grimes really good? I don't know.
That is the beauty of a player starting, is once a player is starting, they're going to play. Yes. If they're not starting, there's no guarantee that a guy like James Booknight is going to. He looked good. He looked great in the tools. Did not work out last week. It often does, though. I mean,
Stevens last night. THT the other.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen sometimes. Usually if you trust the tools, it's going to help you out over the long term, but on a single slate, maybe not always going to work out. I mean, usually
talk about short-term memory there, Neil. It exactly happened to us last Saturday, and I already forgot. This way your mindset just has to be, I'm in the moment.
You're always looking forward.
Slate. I did what I needed to do. I'm on to the next one. You can't lament it. There'll be another slate. That's why I don't like football as much. I love showdowns, though. Love the showdowns now. But I don't like main slate football because there's so few of them. And when you get curb stomped, like happens so often,
it's so tough.
Garbage for about 3 days. You're like, how did I screw that up?
Right? There are weeks with NFL more than anything. There are weeks where I'm like, I feel like I nailed every play. Like everybody who went off, I was overweight to the field on them, and still I lost 80% of my money. These are GPPs that we're playing. It's not easy to win these. But you got to take some risks, and Grimes. I mean, if Quentin Grimes comes off the bench, I would imagine the ownership comes down quite a bit. But if he is if he's not ruled out, would you play Quentin Grimes
ruled out
not
and he's
starting?
Coming off, and he's coming off the bench, and we don't hear any, he's going to give it a go. He's not feeling great or anything. It's just like, okay, no additional news other than he's not coming off the bench. My guess would be he should be on about half our lineups probably.
If he's coming off the bench, okay, interesting. It's probably correct. I don't know. I don't know if we're projecting him to start, but we will get that information during the show, thankfully, because that is a game that happens at lock.
We'll know what the correct answer was in about 5 hours, Neil.
True. Good point. Yeah, we won't really know
It doesn't help
until
us
5 hours
now.
now. Yeah. And I see people in chat just talking about what lineup generator was giving them last night. I like to remind people when you use the lineup generator, they don't come out ranked. Like I think that's something that like when we look at the Sims tool, the lineups actually come out with the highest ROI lineups at the top. For the lineup generator, you're just getting a random, like each one is a random lineup that showed up as profitable in the stochastic sim. So you know every lineup you get in the lineup generator is profitable in the stochastic sim, so like through like 40,000 sims or whatever as we do, but it's not necessarily the most profitable lineup that you're getting first. In fact, it's almost certainly not going to be the first one you get because we have tens of thousands of lineups available there. So just keep that in mind. Like you should pick out your favorite of the lineups that you're getting from lineup generator. Don't just take the first lineups that it gives you. Think about, do I want this much Lamar Stevens or James Bouknight or whatever, and you can adjust if you want lineups that don't have those players in there. So just want to throw that out there since people were talking about what it was giving you. You can adjust. You can figure out what you want in those lineups. All right. You ready to talk about some Pacers?
Absolutely. Let's start off with Tyrese Halliburton. He is in line to get his fourth consecutive game above the 60 fantasy point threshold. He had from the in-season tournament championship till 3 games ago, he had not really done very well. He's back. He's at the apex of his powers. We're projecting him for mid 50s tonight. This game still, Indiana's only 4-point favorites, even though the Knicks are shorthanded. But remember, the Knicks still have their 2 best players going tonight, so they should be capable depending on how.
Ooh, Grimes ruled out, so that helps. So let's go back to the Knicks. I mean, let's wait. We'll go back to the Knicks in about
let's
10
see till we
minutes.
get some projections, because now we're gonna have to say different things about Jericho Sims.
It's going to change a lot. That's going to have a big impact on the slate. So we'll get back to it, but we have to wait for our tools to update. We'll give you the best information. So let's get through the second game, and then we'll come back to the Knicks part of it. So yeah, sorry. Continue on with the Pacers.
Yep. So this is for our FanDuel friends. If you want a tournament differentiator, it's Miles Turner at center. He is projecting to be on just 8% of the lineups. You're going to hear the other centers we're talking about who are going to be on a ton of lineups for the center only players. But he is an intriguing option. Buddy Hield, I think, looks really good with shooting guard small forward eligibility on FanDuel as well. And I can't believe I'm even going to say this. I wouldn't be against going back to Andrew Nembhard. I would try. Hopefully that's not going to be the case. But now that we're losing Grimes, we're going to have to see what else happens here. But I could see Nembhard starting to go up. I don't think I'd want him on more than 15% of my lineups, but that's about where he is now. I have a feeling he's going to go up to about 25% because he has that multi-position eligibility at both guard spots. Jalen Smith is a decent option. He now has power forward eligibility on DraftKings. We'll talk about these DraftKings centric in a minute, but that helps him out. He already had power forward eligibility there on FanDuel because, of course, they have Turner as the center only option, but he would be the other guy I like. And since it is the night of narratives, Obi Toppin with the Remember Me spot, I don't think I want to play him. If we look at this from a DraftKings perspective here, Neil, Jalen Smith comes out on a third of our lineups. That's a lot, but he has 4,900. We're projecting him for about 25 fantasy points. He has 26 and 29 DK points in his last 2 games, both of which he has started. We do have Isaiah Jackson, who fractured the little finger on his right hand. He is a right-handed shooter. He probably will play today. We'll see. He's questionable, but he has not played a lot of minutes in his last 5 games, with most recent going backwards, 11, 26, 12, and 15. So he's kind of an afterthought there, but I do just want to call him out. I do not want him on any of my lineups. He is center only, and you're burning a spot there. And then Aaron Nesmith looks a little bit better on DraftKings than he does FanDuel. That would be a small forward play. He's still kind of neutral, but it's a 8-team player pool.
Mm-hmm.
If this was a 10 or a 12-team player pool, I would not want him at all. We're all playing with the same deck here, and he is someone that if he continues to remain in the starting lineup like he has for the last 2 games, at least we know he's going to get minutes in the most fantasy-friendly game on the slate. So summarizing it, love me some Tyrese Halliburton. No shock there. Really like Jalen Smith, particularly now that he has power forward eligibility on DraftKings. And then Miles Turner is your FanDuel tournament option. I'm okay with Naismith, but really only on DK. And then I'm hoping Nembhard starts to fall out of my player.
Okay. Somebody just asked if McBride is active. So we just got a tweet from Underdog saying Knicks players available Saturday: Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Julius Randle, Isaiah Hartenstein, Miles McBride is active. Taj Gibson, Evan Fournier. Go Google him. Ryan Archidiakono and Jericho Sims are your active NIMS.
I forgot about Fournier.
Yeah, you got to go Google it, guys. Phil Senzig sent us a super chat, but I kind of wanna hold off until we get updated stuff for the Knicks, just because I've been playing NBA like 2 or 3 nights a week. I've been doing some pick six lately, but I'm not sure that I think that I'll be better suited to use the tools for this one. My inclination for Phil says, he asked he sent a 2 super chats. Phil said, first, Neil's nail of the night. I have an inclination for where I want to go with this, which is whatever the Knicks player is probably going to be better. So to be honest, but my inclination, just looking at the ownership right now, I kind of love that Andre Drummond had a down game last time out, because now we have his ownership down at 13%. He is expensive, but Andre Drummond is just such a fantasy beast typically that if he gets back to his normal minutes in a competitive matchup with the Joel Embiid-less Sixers, I'm kind of interested in Andre Drummond. He's my first instinct for my Neil's nail of the night, which that's EMac level alliteration right there. Well done, Phil. And then he also asked for, but I'm going to take a look once we get back to the Knicks. I might change that. He also asked for EMac's Mac Daddy lock of the night. Who's your Mac Daddy lock of the night?
All right, I like this. It's going to be Dante DiVincenzo. That's terrifying. Now, let's quickly talk through it. If you go look at his recent game logs, they are not pretty. He is playing about 20 minutes a game. He's starting. I said, I don't know, is he going to start or not? I could see them changing things so he comes off the bench just to stagger him a little bit more with Brunson. That would be my only real thought. But he is going to have to be more of a facilitator tonight. He has that in his bag. He is probably, I like him tonight. If we can get anything 3.5 to 4 assists, I would take the over. But I wouldn't go much more than that. I would not ladder that either. Okay. But I like where he comes in. He is going to take some shots from downtown. This is going to be a lot less defense. There's going to be more spacing tonight. That suits his game a lot. And just the lack of, quickly being there, etc. I think we see him close to 30 minutes tonight. I would say I don't have our projections up for him on minutes, but I would say 28 is probably the baseline. I don't see much more than 30, but he does have some of the fresher legs of everybody, but he's not a spring chicken per se anymore. He's not old, but he's not, he's been in the league for quite some time. Okay. But he would be my guy. Now, he does twice in the last 10 games. He has gone for 40 fantasy points.
Impressive. We take that.
It's in his bag, Neil.
At 4,800.
It's going to come out of the bag. It could be tonight.
I like it. I think that's a good call. He is now 4th in our updated value scores. We have updating for the Quentin Grimes out. I kind of want to come back to the Knicks. I want to go through one game and then come back to the Knicks, just because I think like boom bust and stuff. Like I don't think ownership is updated currently. So let's come back to it. You ready to move on to the second game of the slate? Philly at Chicago.
Yes. So just quickly, DiVincenzo 27 now. He's been in the league for 6 years. So
okay. Good.
But he came in as a 22-year-old rookie, so he's not like one of the 19-year-old guys.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the Sixers. Who do you like on the Sixers tonight?
I think Andre Drummond is a good play. We have
he's on the Bulls.
So it is a back-to-back of 3 and 4 and a 4 and 6 for the Sixers. Maxey played 41 minutes last night. I believe he scored 42 NBA points. That's the game we were all hoping for on Christmas. We did not get it. He is regularly hitting 40 minutes, so I have no concern about his minutes tonight. Chicago has not exactly lit the world on fire with their defense recently. And then, who's really going to be that secondary scorer with Maxey? I mean, Tobias Harris Okay. Kelly Oubre Jr., fun to watch him dunk, but do we trust him? Not really. DeAnthony Melton, okay, he can score a little bit. I think he had like 15 or 17 last night, but he only had like 25 fantasy points, and that's not exciting. So a lot of things are going to be consolidated there with Tyrese Maxey. I think it actually does help him to have Nicholas Batum back, just because there's someone else that can play a little more defense. And just be kind of that glue guy. But Batum is no longer young, and he's coming off a 6-game absence with a hamstring issue. I would be shocked if he plays much more than 20 minutes tonight. But I think Tyrese Maxey is probably a top 5 play. I think he is a priority play. I would like to be above the field on him. Now, I haven't looked at our current projections, but the last one I pulled a couple hours ago had him for about 10% on DK and about 25% on FanDuel. I figured that was going to dramatically change because I thought we were going to lose Luka. We did not lose Luka, so he still becomes Luka is the priority tonight. But I think Maxey has a chance to get a little bit lost, and if he stays in that 15 to 20%, especially on DK, you want to be over the field on that, or I want to be over the field on.
Okay. I don't know. I can't see what we have on the screen currently, but Jacob, if you refresh, we just got like a minute ago, we got an update in the boom bust tool. So if we could put that on the screen, sorted by optimal rate, I feel like that's a good way to look at the boom bust, because it's kind of interesting looking at the update here. But I love that call on Maxey, who we have. What do we have currently? We had him at 6% my last run. Yeah, we've got him at 6% ownership with a 12% chance of being optimal. Maxey looks like a great low-owned leverage play currently. So I like that call quite a bit. Would you play if Paul Reed starts at 5,700? Would you have any interest there?
So funny you should mention it. Let me just read the free every day. I break down the slate, couple key spots. Today I hit the Paul Reed. Here's my exact quotes, and I want to stay right with it. Paul Reed should be left for tournaments only. His wildly variant production levels make him an intriguing option. However, he got 40 fantasy points 2 games ago when he didn't suffer foul trouble, but he did it the other 2 games. His per 36 foul rate is the lowest of his career. He's been in the league 4 years. I think it's like 5.6 or something per 36. That's not great. He gets into foul trouble. You have problems. What's Drummond do? Owns the paint, rebounds, and is going to annoy him. That's the perfect ticky-tack foul time. So I'm not really excited about Reed, especially with the salary going up, but no one is going to be on him. He could drop 40. He needs to drop 40 to really make it hurt us, but he very well could. And that would probably have him as the second highest center score, potentially the first if the other centers kind of dud or meander.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know, Neil. We're going to know at about 11 o'clock.
B-ball Paul, only 8% ownership. Yeah, maybe a little bit. I don't know. It's tough. And he's only center eligible, so you can only play 2 centers. I don't know. I don't know that I'll get to him, but he's at least a little bit interesting. Worth bringing up if he starts. If he doesn't start, I'm not going there. If Bamba starts, he would be pretty interesting to me. But
I think Bamba becomes a little more interesting because he is a little more disciplined when it comes to staying out of foul trouble. Does that mean he's going to be safe? No, of course not.
Yeah.
But he gets a crack. But what's a median outcome game for Bamba if he starts? 22 to 24 fantasy points. Okay, so that's better than Reed. But is the upside's about the same. And I would argue Reed probably hits his boom more often than Bamba does. But Reed busts probably 3 times as much as Bamba does.
Has Bamba not started at all this year? I'm just looking through game logs. Look like he hadn't started since
I don't think he has
last year. That's interesting. Okay, and that
doesn't mean they're not going to go for a change, right? I mean, Nick Nurse, I never know what he's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get a great game from B-ball Paul last time out. All right. We'll see the starting lineup. We probably won't get it.
B-ball Paul. I thought you were quoting somebody you mean Paul Reed.
Oh no, Paul Reed. Yeah. Anything else on the Sixers?
No, everybody else is really, if you get them in your lineups, I don't mind. The priorities though, Maxey priority, I'd like to have some Tobias Harris. The rest, if they come in, great. I wouldn't try to be over the field on them, with the exception of the former Sixer. Remember me, Andre Drummond.
Yeah, when we get to the Bulls, yeah, that's We'll talk about that. Yeah, just looking at the value scores, we got 5.1x going to Maxey and Tobias Harris. Both look like they're project pretty well for their point per dollar. 9,100 Maxey we project for just under 47 fantasy points. Tobias Harris 7,200 projected for 37 fantasy points. D'Anthony Melton actually looks pretty good point per dollar. We're projecting for just under 33 fantasy points in about 33 and a half minutes, and Melton is 6,500. So he looks fine from a value perspective. Also, point guard and shooting guard eligible. That helps a little bit. And then Paul Reed has a 4.9x value score. I don't know if there's anybody else that I would love to play from the Sixers. Obviously, the starting lineup could change that. All right, let's move on to talking about the former Sixer Andre Drummond and any other Bulls that you like tonight. Who are you playing from the Bulls tonight?
So I really like Drummond. It's going to take up one of our center spots. That makes sense. I'm fine with that on DraftKings. I'm not playing on FanDuel tonight, but he is your strong consideration for the center option there. He is the thing we do want to remember is while he is an outstanding rebounder, one of the best that we've seen in a long time, and he is very good at scoring in the paint. He is not really a rim protector. So that still bodes well for Maxey driving to the rim. So sometimes people are like, oh, Drummond, he's so good. He's a defensive player because he gets some blocks. No, there's a reason he only plays 12 to 14 minutes a game unless somebody's hurt these days. He gets put in the blender on the pick and roll. So he's interesting. That really ends up being my Chicago interest, which is odd. So I'm okay with DeMar DeRozan coming into my lineups. I'm okay with Alex Caruso coming into my lineups. I'm okay with Kobe White coming into my lineups, but everybody's seen their price elevate now that we've got a couple games without Vooch, and we've had several games without Zach LaVine. So that is just kind of got everybody normalized. I think Javon Carter is available to play tonight. Patrick Williams was dealing with a sore ankle. I believe he is available. I'm pretty sure he's going to play tonight.
Yep. Available to play. Both available to play. Yep.
Okay. So Williams, there's no price break, and he has a good chance at 30 fantasy points, but his upside is he doesn't attain his upside enough for me. Don't want to cross him out. There's again 8 teams in the player pool, and he's good as a small forward option, but he's kind of the neutral guy. So I don't dislike White, but there's so many better guards with Brunson and Halliburton. We're going to talk about Doncic, and we've already, there's so many options, and from a point per dollar perspective, he's just not going to get there. But DeRozan, I can see him popping up into about 15 to 20% of my lineups, which
all right. Phil sent us another super chat. Now wants to know, do we think the Pistons are going to win against the Raptors tonight? Currently down 5 points or so. I would bet on the Raptors personally. Do you have any take on this, EMac?
Look at that score real quick. I was impressed that they took Boston to overtime. I feel bad for them. You know what? I'm giving this one to the Pistons tonight. They're gonna rally.
All right. Love the reasoning there. You feel bad for them, so you're gonna give them the W. LeBron James still questionable with an illness per Coach Ham. So that is something we're going to have to actually monitor, because that will actually impact things quite a bit if LeBron is ruled out tonight. We've been expecting that LeBron is going to play. It's going to change the slate a little bit if LeBron ends up sitting. So something to keep an eye on as we get closer to that game. All right. Anything else about the Bulls here?
No, that's good.
All right, and I'll just throw out the guys who look like decent values. Drummond, just under 43 fantasy points at 8,000. DeRozan, just under 44 fantasy point projection at 8,500. They both look great. Alex Russo projected for just over 27 fantasy points at 5,400. Looks okay. Kobe White looks okay, projected for 39 fantasy points. I can't believe Kobe White is 7,800 these days, but he's earned that. Project for just 39 fantasy points, just over. Io is actually he's 4,600 projected for just over 22 fantasy points, so he looks playable to me. Patrick Williams marginally playable, projected for 27.5 at 5,800. Looks okay. Those are the Bulls that I would consider in my player pool at the very least. All right, next up we have my Timberwolves, but we'll start with the Lakers side of the game. As I just said, LeBron is questionable. That is going to obviously impact the game quite a bit. Josh Hart will start. We just got the news that Josh Hart is starting. So that's something worth noting. But let's oh, I did say that we'd come back to the Knicks. Let's wait a little bit longer to see if we get the starting
Let's hit
lineup.
these last two games.
Let's do the Lakers. Yep. Start with the Lakers.
All right, so Lakers, this is pretty easy. If LeBron is in, play him. Yeah, it's his birthday. He's still a top 10 player in the league. Play him. If he's going to sit, I wouldn't suspect he sits tomorrow. The Lakers do play in New Orleans tomorrow. What's our narrative for that? Well, Anthony Davis and New Orleans. If LeBron is out tonight, we want all the Davis we can get, even though this is a difficult matchup against your Minnesota Timberwolves. This is kind of a remember me game that nobody ever talks about.
The Minneapolis Lakers you talking about? Or what do you mean?
Look at you. I couldn't even throw that one by you. You're in midseason.
No, this
man.
is,
You
come on.
hammered that one out of the park.
You're throwing a Minnesota reference at me. Of course I know that one.
That's good. The Minneapolis Lakers. Yes, the land of what, Neil? 10,000 lakes. Apparently.
There's way more than 10,000, by the way. All right. Who do you like from the Lakers in this, I guess, remember me game?
That would be LeBron and Anthony Davis. Full stop. We're kind of done. It's interesting that Russell's, well, there's your another remember me guy. He's not good coming off the bench. It just caps his minutes. He doesn't get those like 5 to 6 minutes starting, and if he doesn't make the final rotation, it's an issue. If LeBron's out, then he's going to get more minutes tonight. Austin Reeves, if LeBron's out, should get a lot of minutes tonight. He's going to get fair amount of minutes anyway. The rest of the Lakers are actually kind of healthy, Neil, which is kind of, is that a shock for us? It feels like it's been forever. Cam Reddish should be back. He's
starting tonight. They just said he will start tonight.
Okay, so he was out with a groin issue, but he's back. Gabe Vincent is the only one that's not playing. We'll have to see what happens with LeBron, but I suspect he will play today. But if this all hinges on LeBron. If he's out, then we get secondary plays with Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and Taurean Prince. I think Vanderbilt becomes a possibility. I just get nervous with him because he mostly rebounds.
Yeah,
that's it. He doesn't shoot.
He rebounds and he dunks.
Yes, he dunks, and maybe there's a putback, but not always, because sometimes he'll just kick it back out.
Yeah.
Even with offensive boards. It's like, dude, you're within 4 feet of the basket. You should be able to get this one in. But I guess if it's not a missed shot or not a turnover, good for him, right?
Peter Viles, aka Aha Bro, says Minnesota is the land of 10,000 mosquitoes. I can promise you that Justin is correct. It's more like 10 billion or whatever the number is 10 trillion. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to read it all out, but yeah, there are way more than 10,000 mosquitoes in Minnesota. I promise you that. All right. Anybody else on the Lakers?
No, that's going to do it. On the Minnesota side, it's pretty easy. Anthony Edwards, strong play. I believe he's now shooting guard only on FanDuel. That makes it why he's not small forward there is a little bit tougher. But I'm just double checking. No, he is small forward there. Maybe it's DraftKings. Sorry,
it's on DraftKings. He's only shooting guard eligible.
DraftKings, he's only shooting guard eligible. So that's a little off, but that shouldn't stop you from getting him. The $9,200 price tag, that could stop you from getting to him. But otherwise, the Lakers are adequate on defense. Adequate.
Low owned Ant. I did not realize that Ant was coming in so low owned.
Yeah. There's really 4 players that you want to look at. Edwards, Gobert, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Mike Conley. If Karl-Anthony Towns, who's been dealing with the sore knee, were to be out for whatever reason, you put in Nasri. But you're really looking at those 4. If Towns is out by proxy, Kyle Anderson probably would get some extra trickle-down minutes because they can maneuver him around the front court if they need to. In different spots. So it's kind of a wait and see. Everybody's more or less neutral, but I'm okay with of those 4. I don't think I'd force any of them into my lineup if everybody's playing.
Fair. Yeah. Looking at the value on Minnesota, it is Ant number 1. I love the owner, 8.5%. That's really interesting to me. It might have changed since I refreshed this, but low ownership, 47-point projection for Ant at 9,200 looks good. Gobert 7,400 projects for 37.5. He looks pretty good. Cat, if he plays projected, we have in currently project for just over 40 fantasy points at 8,100. Conley 5,700. He'll have blowout games from time to time. 5,700 projected for 27.5 looks okay. Jaden 5,000 projects for just under 22. He would also look better if Cat ends up missing. Kyle Anderson, that's a good call out. Currently doesn't look that great, projected for just under 20. He also can just have a blow up game out of nowhere sometimes. He's 4,900, looks okay. Naz Reid, not a great projection here. Obviously would look better with Cat if Cat misses. Anything else from this game?
No, but if someone in chat can tell me if Martin Jones is confirmed starting tonight in goal, I would be very happy. I'm having a hard time finding that on Twitter.
If who?
Martin Jones? He
This
is. We're talking hockey now. The frozen pond, Neil.
okay?
Got a lot
That's
of sports going on tonight. This is the beauty of the stochastic tools. I'm telling you, you can multitask. You can do a variety of things. You can remain profitable across multiple sports with just a little watering and a little love, and all of a sudden the profits, they start growing. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have hockey in Minnesota, so I can't tell you anything about the NHL. Let's stick to NBA. All right, we have one final game to get to, that being Dallas at Golden State. As I said earlier, Luka, he's no longer the best value on the slate, but he was at one point the best value on the entire slate, despite being 11,700. Start with the Dallas side. Who do you like on Dallas?
Well, Luka, clearly. I think he's your priority play of the night. There's no surprise on that one. We're projecting him for 69 points on DK, which is nice. I think Derek Lively is your secondary option. Again, a lot of centers tonight. He's coming off two really bad games. So people may be a little hesitant to go with him. Those were foul trouble games. 5 fouls in the last game, held up to just 15 minutes. 4 in the game prior to that, held him to 25. He had a grand total of 23 fantasy points in those 2 games. That looks pretty bad, especially when you look at his salary. But that means people are not going to him. He's about 10% owned. I think Derek Jones Jr. is okay, and Tim Hardaway Jr. is adequate. This is like a generational remember me game because his dad played part of Run TMC for the Golden State Warriors. But
I remember.
very, very thin team. When you have Luka in, he has close to a 40% usage rate. That does not leave a lot for anybody else. And it becomes a challenge. And if you look at their point per dollar plays, the only other one who's kind of interesting is Lively, but center, we got lots of centers that are far better point per dollar than he is. So it's really Luka or bust.
All right, Luka or bust for you from Dallas. Let me take a look if there's anybody else that's kind of interesting. Yeah, as you said, Lively looks okay point per dollar, but only center eligible. Maybe in play 27 fantasy point projection at 5,600. Derek Jones Jr., 25 fantasy points at 5,300 looks okay. And then from there, I mean, I guess Tim Hardaway is a guy who can always get hot. As you said, son of former TMC Tim Hardaway, 6,700. He doesn't project very well point per dollar, but he's the type of player that I sometimes will, depending on the slate, if there's not much that I love, the type of player that I'll just boost him up and be like, I'll take shots on this guy getting hot and putting up a big score. I think Tim Hardaway always live, but not a great point per dollar play. Dante Exum, 6,500, 28 projection, not great. Yeah, not the best team to target. What about the Golden State side?
So here's where it gets interesting. I actually recommended taking the under on 28.5 points for Steph Curry today. That was because we were getting it at positive money on DraftKings, and that was over on OddsShopper. Do we ever want to bet against Steph Curry? No, it's never fun. We're even projecting him for slightly over that 4 points, but that is a median outcome. We have a range of outcomes here. So my thinking was, if you go back and look at his games without Draymond in his the last 8 games, he's averaging 32 minutes, 18.1 field goal attempts, and 43% from the field, 22.8 points per game. Yes, one of those games was his dud where he scored like 7 points and missed all his 8 of his free throws in his consecutive game, or his 3-pointers in his consecutive game streak ended at 268 or whatever it was up to. Since then, he is shooting 40% from 3, so a little bit better, but that's kind of about, shockingly, it's what we expect from the greatest shooter of all time. But I think it does hurt him to not have Draymond there. And I think, it's terrifying going against him, but more often than not, he doesn't get 30 in the spot. He's going to be 36 this spring. It's just kind of going against him. That said, I'm okay playing him with daily fantasy sports. He is just 8,800 on DraftKings. That is a phenomenal salary there. And then on FanDuel, he's even lower. Rarely do we get players lower on FanDuel than we do on DraftKings. He's 8,300. So I think he's a strong DFS play. You can kind of hedge some of that stuff out, or vice versa by taking his under. That was just one of the ones that popped. I would not take it at minus 110 or worse. Don't take it. It's not a good bet. But if you get it, still get it. If you could still get it at that plus money, it's a good bet.
Okay.
The rest of the guys, Podzinski, I think is okay. His salary has really come up, but he has flashed 40 fantasy point potential. He's done it in 2 of his last 3 games, so I think he's very much in play. Klay Thompson can always put the biscuit in the basket, but he's entirely scoring dependent at this point in his career. He hasn't topped 30 fantasy points in the last 3 games. Jonathan Kuminga has picked up more responsibilities, but they haven't really done much for him. And then we saw Kevon Looney tear up this team in the playoffs not that long ago, but Kevon Looney's minutes have been down recently as well. We're treading on thin ice here. Adam this morning made a bit of a case for Andrew Wiggins because his salary, he's in the 4,000s now.
Yeah.
On DraftKings, Neil. He hit a high water mark in the first couple games of the season. I remember it was like 7,000 and 7,200. He's like what, 49 or 48 today or 47. It keeps falling. Do you try to grab a falling knife? Probably not. So Curry, yes. Podziemski, yes. Chris Paul, neutral. We have so many other guard plays tonight that he just kind of gets lost in the sauce.
We do have the Knicks confirmed starting lineup. Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hart, Randall, Hartenstein. I think that's what we were expecting. We were already told that Josh Hart was going to start. So I think that we kind of knew what the starting lineup was going to be there for the Knicks. Somebody just said that McBride is popping a lot in the lineup generator. Do we have concerns about McBride in the same way as like Book Night or some of these other backups who we don't really like? The minutes aren't guaranteed.
So if he gets a season high in minutes tonight, Neil,
we got a super chat. So I didn't realize
it will be 14. He needs to get 14 minutes to have a season high. He has played 30 minutes in December. Do I think he plays tonight? Yes. I think he leaves the bench and plays.
I mean, this is the first game that we have without RJ Barrett and without Emmanuel Quickly. So like the fact that he has not been playing big minutes doesn't mean that he can't play more than 13 minutes, to be clear. So you do think
I
that
was
he's
just
going
more
to play.
saying he hasn't done it when those guys were here. They're not here. 20 minutes is like a top for him. But I made a case for Dante DiVincenzo of all people tonight. At least McBride is a true point guard, right?
Yeah.
So he should have 20 minutes.
And then, so Justin Super Chat said, haven't seen many Super Chats tonight. Appreciate you guys. Sims giving me lots of McBride and Fournier. Any thoughts on them? So we covered the McBride part of it. How much interest do you have in Never Google?
Very little. That is probably more of a me issue than anything else.
So I think he's another one that no guarantee with the minutes. I'm just refreshing because I believe was actually the top value score last I checked. Okay, he has moved back down. So at one point Fournier we had projected just slightly better, but he has moved down the value score a little bit. Still looks okay. We've got him projected for, so he's the Stoneman 3000. We've got him projected for just under 19 minutes, 16.5 fantasy points. He's another guy that can get hot, just hit a few threes in his limited time on the court. Suddenly he's going to look pretty good.
How many points would he or McBride have to get before you'd be angry you didn't
have? Probably 20.
25.
It's a 4-game slate. I think 20 might be enough.
Okay. How few points could they get before you're pissed that you rostered them?
Like
14? 10. Okay.
It's a 4-game slate.
I'm trying to put perspective, right? We got caught holding the bag with Book last week.
True, we did.
I'm trying to think of how do we frame this another way. This is fraught with danger, but fortune favors the bold.
We got a super chat as well from James Agruder, and we will take a look at NFL in a minute, but we just want to prioritize NBA until we've covered everything. James Agruder
asked, that's a good call. Let's hit it. Let's hit NFL right at lock. We'll stay on for another 10 minutes and we'll talk NFL for you guys.
Okay.
So we're not rushed.
James Agruder says wants to know best play at each position for DraftKings single entry. Best play at each position for DraftKings single entry. So starting with point guard, do you have a best play at the position?
Okay. Point guard, I think you got to get Luka Doncic is 1, Jalen Brunson 2, Tyrese Halliburton is 3. Going with Luka is going to paint you into a corner on a couple spots, just because you're going to have to start hitting that Knicks value, but that's okay. Shooting guard, Dante DiVincenzo is 1. Podziemski is 2. And then go with God, Evan Fournier. Just just understand you're playing with fire, but he is the minimum. If he gets 17 fantasy points, he breaks even. If we look at small forward, I would love to go with LeBron. Now we're talking about two expensive guys. We haven't really gotten Halliburton in your lineup yet. So if you're looking on the cheap side, you can still get Dante DiVincenzo there. Probably Josh Hart, I guess, would be the other one. Power forwards where you can get some points. I really like Julius Randle. Anthony Davis, if LeBron, if birthday boy happens to give himself the night off, I think Anthony Davis becomes an outstanding option. Yeah. If birthday boy plays, then Jalen Smith. Okay. But you're going to have to make that decision in 9 minutes. So that's really not going to help us because we're not going to know about LeBron in 9 minutes. And then at center, I really like Drummond. I'm okay with Hartenstein, even though he had a bad game his last outing. And then I think Julius Randle's good at center and power forward. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I think that was a good response. You gave him a few plays at each position. I think that is helpful. I'm trying to think if we have any. I mean, we have people in chat asking for the Knicks starting lineup, which I just read like 5 minutes ago. I guess I can read it again. Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hart, Randall, Hartenstein. Yes, we do know that Quentin Grimes is out. Don't worry, we are aware of that. Steve is Fournier really in play? I think that he's similar to James Bouknight, where it's like he's min priced. If he gets minutes, like he could put up a score. He also might not play that many minutes. Yeah, it's there's risk. There's a lot of risk there. But also he is only 3,000. He's similar to we have currently McBride projected for 63% ownership, and we have Fournier. Let me sort by ownership here. Yeah, we have McBride projected.
Grimes, and I think it's saying then that probably means McBride's going to get 17 to 25 minutes. That's a wide range, but again, we don't know what we're getting.
Yeah.
And what happens if DiVincenzo gets into foul trouble? You are now down to Brunson as your ball handler. You're going to need McBride, right? So there's paths where he could just throw it in our face. But
we have Fournier at 18% ownership as well. So he actually looks good in the boom bust. 43% chance of optimality for Evan Fournier. So I would say he's in play, but with the note that he might not play that many minutes. So it is definitely a wide range of outcomes there.
Is that your word or is that Gundacker's word? Optimality?
That's actually a word that so I started doing my NFL showdown lineups and I would use odds of being optimal, and they kept on changing it to optimality, the editors. So I've just started using the word optimality to describe. Yeah, so it's a stochastic editor's word is where I got it from.
I like it.
It saves me some typing, I guess. Saves me a little space when I'm trying to do a thread.
Before. Yeah.
So in terms of ownership right now, we have Dante D at 73%, Miles McBride 63%, Julius Randle at 55%, Josh Hart 43%. So our top four in terms of ownership are all on the Knicks. Then we have Luka, Jalen Smith, and then it's Brunson, Hartenstein as well. So tons of ownership going to the Knicks. What is your cap?
Mac Daddy play of the night is not a stand anymore.
Oh yeah, that's not at all a stand. Good point.
No.
Do you have a cap on the number of
Tyrese Halliburton is your pivot? Rework your lineups, everybody.
Yep. I'm just realizing I should probably enter some lineups as well.
Hey,
and then I know Jacob has the first lineup I get to has 5 Knicks in it. I'm looking at the lineup generator. I don't usually like to play 5
capping
lineups.
Mine at 4 for the question that everybody's going to ask.
Yep.
Capping it at 4 Knicks.
Yeah, I think I am too. I think I'm just getting rid of any that have 5. And we are going to, Jacob has pulled up NFL stuff. I want to make sure that we've accounted for inactives. I don't think we're expecting any like big shocks in terms of inactives, but worth looking at who has been ruled inactive during the show. Let me just save a few of these and I'll enter them and then we can talk some NFL. Of course, if you guys have any more NBA questions, feel free to shoot them at us. We'd be happy to answer any of those as well if there's anything that we have not talked about. Tim Spiros just in chat says, asked whether he expects to appear on the court for the Knicks again. Fournier was certain. No, not at all, he said. Is that real, Tim? That's good to know. If Fournier does not think he's ever going to play again, that's I don't know, maybe something that'll temper expectations a little bit. Scares me a little bit. If the player himself.
What are you going to cap Fournier at?
Oh man, I got way too much more. Damn it. So I'm using the lineup generator, and I'm not giving
You're
myself
gonna
enough
get a
time to actually adjust for maybe
yeah.
for Fournier. All right, I'm gonna go back and do this a different way, I think, just to because I don't think I want him. I don't know. No, I'm gonna trust the tools. I currently have 81% Fournier. I do not want to have 81%, but I don't think that I have enough time to change it. So I'm just going to trust the tools and hope for the best with my Fournier exposure. But yeah, it definitely scares me a good amount.
I am gonna cap him at 20%.
Do I have enough Anthony Edwards is the real question because I want more Anthony Edwards. I should have been building earlier so I could actually adjust things. I did not give myself time to adjust anything in my lineups, and I'm not going to have as much Ant as I like, is my guess. So that's unfortunate. But I'm going to enter these, take a look at the NFL slate briefly. Do you want to start talking about the NFL slate, or are your lineups in EMac?
I'm gonna download and upload, and then I'm good to talk. Give me one moment.
All right. I think the
70% Dante DiVincenzo is where I'm going. That he is my most owned player. That was my cap.
That's one of those do as we say, not as we do, I think, because I would definitely not recommend having 70%. You say Dante DiVincenzo, not
Dante
Fournier. Never
DiVincenzo.
mind. Okay. That
Yeah.
to me is totally fine. Yeah, it's Fournier, it scares me. Dante D, I think, is a solid play, who I would play a lot of.
All right, I'm uploaded. I'm good to go. We can pivot anytime.
All right. Well, then I think that we have covered any. I'm not, at least as far as like, I don't have anybody at in me. I don't have any super chats left that we haven't gotten to. So I think we can pivot to talk NFL just briefly. Just a single game slate here with Detroit and Dallas. And I know that you wrote an article about it. I think that you're more prepared to talk about it than I am. I have some, takes on it, but I'm just going to throw it to you to open it up.
Sure.
Start with I guess wherever you want. Usually we start with quarterback, but you can whatever you're ready to talk about.
Yeah, so I'm dropping the link into the chat here. You guys, I brought up these 2,000 plus words into for the NFL showdown. Oh, I've got the Yahoo chat is freaking out there. There we go. Okay, so that link is in there for everybody to enjoy. We've got about an hour and 15 minutes until kickoff, but let's hit some highlights here. Fantastic matchup, knocking on wood we get a good close game here. Thursdays wasn't bad. I didn't watch it. We had friends over. I played one lineup. I had whatever the second best lineup was. I didn't post head to heads, but I'll drop some team free money head to heads. Will be up in about 10 minutes on DK. Username EMac just a buck. We're playing for pride here. Let's have some fun. So Jared Goff was the 15th ranked quarterback for Stochastic this week, but I think he is a phenomenal play. I like him as the utility slot. I'm not really as fond of him for a captain. He's not going to do anything with his legs at all, but he has the chance for multiple touchdowns. Why doesn't he do much with his legs? Well, he's got two phenomenal running backs. So why, when he's kind of slow-footed. So that takes the rushing upside away from him. Prescott actually has rushed for 22 or more yards in 3 of the last 4. He's averaging right around that and about 6 carries per game in that stretch. We talked about him before, Neil. He was never really a running quarterback, but he did score like 6, 6, and 5 rushing touchdowns his first 3 years. He's well removed from the ankle injury of 2020. He is not going to go out of his way to run, but he can. So this is an important game for both teams. Both teams are looking at the potential of having the best record in the NFC. They need a little bit of help, and there's a couple other teams that are tied with them, but they've got a good shot here. Both of these teams have clinched the playoff berth, so now we're playing for long shot bye. Remember, because they changed wild card weekend now to where only 2 teams get buys, but it's in play still for both of these teams. But home field advantage is very much in play, and they're going to want to try to lock that up for as much as they can. So Dak, I do think, is captain possibility. He leads the league with 30 touchdowns this season. Remember that fumble or that interception issue he had last year? Led the league with 15 or 16 interceptions. I believe I'm going from memory now. I think he's had 7 this year. He has a 1.9% interception rate. That is below his career average. So it looks like last year was the outlier, but he is captain worthy. When we get to the running backs, I think both Detroit running backs are captain worthy. I do not think Tony Pollard is. We'll talk about him in just a second. Can you play both Detroit running backs on the same roster? Yes, you absolutely can. They both have done a good job with scoring. It seems that David Montgomery is slightly the preferred running back when it comes to rushing. But if we go in the 7 games since their week 9 bye, when they both have been healthy, Montgomery has averaged 14.5 carries for 75 rushing yards. He has scored 5 times in those 7 games. And he's also had 13 targets total, 10 receptions for 50 yards. Gibbs is averaging 3 less carries. He's averaging just over 11. He's averaging just shy of 70 yards, so about 5 yards less than Monty, but he has a boatload of receptions. He has 34 targets, 23 catches, 153 yards, and a score. In this time frame, he has the 3rd most targets on Detroit. So where you have the choice, you definitely want to go with Gibbs. You get a slight discount to Montgomery on half PPR. I think Montgomery gets a little bit of an ownership discount as well. He becomes slightly better than Gibbs, just because the lack of passing work is not going to hurt him. Remember, he's a capable pass catcher. Everything's just consolidated with Amon-Ra St. Brown and with Sam Laporta. Hey, let's talk about those guys right after we talk about Pollard. Rico Dowdle is out. That means Deuce Vaughn is going to be backing up Tony Pollard. Deuce Vaughn has 5 offensive snaps since week 5. He is inactive more often than he's active. He is 5'6" and 170 pounds. Do you think he is going to run between the tackles? I don't. I think it'll be Hunter Luepke, the fullback / big lumbering running back, if he needs to be, will be the guy that probably slams into the line if it's not going to be Tony Pollard. Vaughn, in his I looked at his college stats, right, because I wanted to see what he had done. He had almost 5,000 yards from scrimmage. He was mostly a starter for about 3 seasons, 37 games, 43 touchdowns. That was for Kansas State. Big difference playing for Kansas State than playing for the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm a little bit nervous about him. I think he's like $1,000, I think, on DraftKings. You could put him into your cash games. I have not built my cash game yet, but he could be in there for salary relief. I think you need to understand that negative fantasy points are a potential outcome for him. That is the shock of shocks. This season, he has 21 carries for 38 yards. That's not very dynamic, is it? No. And he doesn't have he caught all 6 targets for 30 yards.
Ooh, Luka is a game time decision now, FYI. So I know I want to continue talking NFL, but I feel like I got to cover this. Since Kyrie ruled out, we already had him out. Seth Curry was also ruled out, which we had him in. He was questionable, but now Seth Curry ruled out. Now Luka, a game time decision. I wish I had not played so many Knicks EMac. If you save some spots, because that's going to change things up for Dallas a little bit. I think we could have some more value opening up there. But just want to throw that out there.
What happens when Luka's out? The team falls apart.
Somebody's got to score some points. Luka and Seth Curry out? I mean, sure. Yeah.
Dante Exum, anyone? Hardy? Har? I don't know. But back to this. So I think Luepke has the safer floor. He probably has the best access to a 6-point ceiling if he can get a touchdown, but his ranges are kind of binary. When you look at Deuce Vaughn, you're hoping for like 2 catches, 17 yards. Okay, so
I mean, you're hoping for more than that, but yeah, that's the likelier, like, if he plays, he's probably. So I'll say this for Deuce Vaughn. He looks great in our tools. We have him with positive leverage both in the captain spot and the util in the single game tool. 2% ownership going to Deuce Vaughn, 4% chance of being optimal in the captain spot, 14% util ownership, 19% optimal. So he looks good there, but I have the same concerns that you do, EMac, that I'm like, I don't think that he's like, they haven't been playing him. They've been playing Rico Dowdle over him. I think that we are making the assumption that he steps into.
Over him. Yeah, Rico Dowdle had worked his way into. He is the number 2 back, no questions asked.
And now it's like, well, are they going to give that role to Deuce Vaughn? I don't know. He's, as you say, he's tiny. I don't know that he can do it. I think that he's an interesting play because we do have him at low ownership, but definitely I'd say that he's like a James Bouknight, where it's like the upside is there at low ownership. He might see, enough volume where, and he's cheap, so he doesn't need much, but also he might not really see the field. As you say, Hunter Luepke, definitely the more likely to get a goal line carry. So yeah. That's those are my thoughts on Deuce Vaughn. Sorry, you can continue.
The other thing you need to know about the Detroit defense, I think they're 14th or 8th DVOA. No running back has gone over 70 yards against them. I found that to be interesting. So Pollard, everybody, I was guilty of it too. I thought he was going to recover from the offseason surgery where he had the high ankle sprain against the 49ers in the playoffs. And kind of, depending on which article you read, he may have had a slight fracture of his tibia, blah, blah, blah. So he had to have surgery. He had that tightrope surgery, which you can recover from and come back 100%. But not everybody has superhuman healing powers, as we're learning. It's taken him a little longer than expected. Plus the added volume, he's not as efficient as he was. If he had 3 or 4 more touchdowns, people would be less salty about how they feel about him right now. Volume has kind of been there over the last little stretch, maybe 4 weeks or so, that he started to look a little more like a worn down Tony Pollard instead of a I've lost a step Tony Pollard that he was at the beginning of the season. But he's just not quite as exciting as he could be. He continues to get better each week. Is that probably going to burn me at some point? Yes, but I'm going to be under the field on him. But there's kind of my reason why.
I think I'm taking a different approach. I actually like Tony Pollard tonight.
Okay.
And to answer, David Porter points out Dowdle is out. Yeah, that was maybe we skipped a step in that. Yes, the Dowdle is out, which is why we are considering Deuce Vaughn is maybe he steps into the Rico Dowdle RB2 role. We're not clear that is necessarily going to happen though. As far as Tony Pollard, I have more interest than you do, just because for the same reason that I'm not sure that they trust. For a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm not sure that they trust Deuce Vaughn like they trust Rico Dowdle. So it could just be Tony Pollard takes on more of that just like workhorse role. Like maybe he is really just the guy this week. But also, he said before, like a week or two ago, that he feels better than he's felt all year. Now, players say that kind of thing all the time. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. And he has one of the better matchups on the slate. So I think that I have interest in Pollard. Looks like he's getting only 36% util ownership. We have him 41% optimal. So I think I hear what you're saying. I think that, you make a compelling case for the fade, but I also think at 7,800, I think that I'm probably going to end up overweight there.
And so I would not most likely will not have Pollard in my main lineups. I'm going to go drop my head-to-heads in the chat or into the DK lobby now, so you guys can take a crack at me, especially you guys that didn't like my NBA stuff. Come on, that was some pretty good stuff. I've read some bad comments in there, so you are the ones that really need to take my head-to-heads, because now you can stick it to.
That's true.
Stick it to all the anger out and
this
just
fish.
Show me how bad I am at this sort of stuff.
Beetle Bump God says Deuce was good in the preseason. Was he really? I thought that
he was.
There was a point where I was drafting him in best ball, and then I saw him in some practice. I was like, man, that guy is tiny. Like, there's no way. I did not remember. I don't follow preseason all that closely, but that's interesting. If he was good in preseason, it's just he's small for this
The
NFL
water
game.
boy questioned why that guy was in a uniform.
Yeah.
So just putting that out there. All right, the team free money head-to-heads are dropped in the DK lobby. Username EMac. Go get it.
And for people asking about Lupke, yeah, he is a fullback.
He's a fullback.
Yeah, so he's like a use check. Like maybe he gets that goal line carry. Probably not going to do much else.
Yeah, I would be shocked if he has the over/under on his touches, even like without Dowdle there, is probably 3.5. I think he had 3 carries in the last game and a target. That's probably what we're looking at tonight. So it's 3 carries for 7 yards and a target for another 7. That's not very exciting.
Yeah, but if he scores a touchdown,
So the wide receivers, this is where it's all at. So I don't want to fade Pollard, but he's not going to be in my cash game lineup. And I thought he'd be on about 40% of the DK lineups. I'm going to cap him at like 25 or 30. So I'm not going to play him, but he's a secondary option as a captain for me as well. Why is that? Well, because Amon-Ra St. Brown and CeeDee Lamb are in this game. So Brown is 5th in receiving yards per game, 6th in yards after the catch, 3rd in first downs. He has 8 touchdowns and 20 plays of at least 20 yards. Those are 7th in the league. CeeDee Lamb barely beats him in most of those. CeeDee Lamb has more catches than anybody else this season, and he is just an absolute awesome play. Those guys are both captain viable. I would suspect one of them is going to be my cash game captain. We will see. Sam Laporta is having one of the best rookie seasons ever. Do you know who has the rookie season for yardage as a tight end?
Ditka.
Do you know that he had 1,076 yards in 14 games? That's a 14 game season.
Impressive. Yeah, damn good.
Keith Jackson has the reception record, 81 for the Eagles when he was a rookie, and that was a 16-game season back then. So Laporta is just gobbling up all the targets. He is the first tight end to have 70 receptions, 700 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns. And he got that a couple weeks ago, but I found that to be an interesting stat. The secondary receivers are kind of interesting for Detroit. You have Jamison Williams, who has 7, 6, and 1 targets over the last 3 games. Josh Reynolds, 4, 3, and 4. Khalif Raymond, 2, 1, and 4. Raymond's going to be on the field about half of the snaps of the other 2. However, he will get some schemed plays for him. He is also the most likely to get a carry. So he is probably will play on about 30% of the snaps. The other guys will play between 50 and 75%. Just sort of depends on the packages that they're going to do. I think Jamison Williams, Manos de Piedros, the hands of stones, but he is coming on. Donovan Peoples-Jones, probably be on the field for 6 or 7 snaps. He has 1 target each for the last 4 games. Brock Wright is out for the 2nd consecutive week. That means James Mitchell, $300 on DraftKings, potential cash game option there. He's going to be the tight end too. He had 29 snaps last week, no targets. 92 on the season, also no targets. Anthony Ferkser is working. He played 2 snaps last week. So James Mitchell, dangerous option, but if you want to get a whole bunch of studs at the other positions and are willing to take a 0, he has potential for that. When we look at the Dallas Cowboys, it's CeeDee Lamb as their best receiver. It's probably Jake Ferguson as number 2, even though he's the tight end. He's second on the team with 90 yards. He has done a phenomenal job of replacing Dalton Schultz, and I think he has a higher ceiling. And Schultz was pretty good, right? So that's high praise for him. Brandon Cooks has just 13 targets over the last 5 games. Last week, only Ferguson, who had 8 targets, and he had 8 each of the last 4 games, and Lamb had more than 2 targets for the Cowboys. That was the game against Buffalo last week, I believe, right? So just be careful when looking at game logs. It's not as dire as it seems. It does appear, and this is where Neil can set me straight, it does appear that Michael Gallup may be slightly edging ahead of Jalen Tolbert in their little personal battle. It looked like right? Tolbert was on the upswing here. But I didn't know what to do with these guys, other than I don't want to play them on the same lineup. A rare rule I would set for this, and I don't think we have to go to Kevontae Turpin. He will be returning kicks, but with everybody healthy, he will be hard pressed to get more than a target or 2. I would be shocked if he has more than 6 to 8 snaps on offense. But I didn't really know what to do with Gallup or Tolbert.
All right, let me look at routes run for last week just to confirm. I had not looked at that trend, so I didn't realize. I've been drafting Tolbert ahead of Gallup in playoff best ball. So maybe that's a huge mistake. Let me check.
And while you're checking, the backup tight ends are Peyton Hendershot, healthy now, 3 targets in total in the last 2 weeks, 300 on DraftKings. You'll probably see him in my cash game lineup if you want to go get those team free money bucks. Nothing is sweeter than EMac bucks. I gotta tell you that.
Is true.
And then Luke Schoonmaker.
Money from Grandpa. Everybody loves money from Grandpa.
Yeah. Luke Schoonmaker. Yeah. Whatevs. These guys have not had more than 2 targets since week 7. Pendershot was hurt. It kind of cuts up to Schoonmaker more of a blocker. Defense and special teams, nothing overly exciting here. The kickers, Brandon Aubrey has not missed a field goal, knocking on wood for him, yet this season. That includes 8 from beyond 50 yards, and he had a 60-yarder, was it, in the other primetime game that we did? And I thought he was going to be a good play, Neil. So he's interesting. He has missed 3 extra points. He's 42 of 45. Michael Badgley is the kicker because the other guy who was the kicker got cut, and he's already been picked up and I think played for another team. Patterson, something like that. Michael Badgley, awesome nickname, the Money Badger.
That's Money Badger. Yep.
He has played for 6 teams over 5 seasons and only made it into 62 games. He is below league average, but he is kicking tonight. He had just one field goal try in the last 2 games where he started for the other guy he replaced, and he's gone 9 of 10 on extra points. For kick returns, Aubrey has allowed just 7 kick returns on kickoffs this season. So
all
I
right,
think that hits most everything, though. And you guys can get that all.
And to just looking at routes run, as somebody in chat just pointed out, Gallup has taken over for Tolbert in terms of routes run and snaps the past couple of weeks. You are right about that, EMac. Last week, Gallup 58% route participation, Jalen Tolbert at 29%. Kevontae Turpin actually 16% as well. So they, he's at least out there. But Gallup
was out there, but the targets are just, and when we were playing him, there was other injuries. So
Yep. But Gallup, so 58% route participation last week for Gallup. Still just 2 targets. Same with Tolbert in terms of targets. But I'd rather play the guy who's running more routes. If targets are equal, the guy who's running more routes probably going to see an uptick before the guy who's playing fewer routes. So yeah, Gallup looks like a good play. All right. Yeah, I think that you covered it all pretty well, EMac. I don't think that I had any other notes. Just looking at, since I haven't pulled up, Dallas route participation last week. CeeDee Lamb 92%, Jake Ferguson 79%, Brandon Cooks 79%. So they were even, Ferguson and Cooks. Gallup 58%, and then a big drop down to Tolbert at 29%, Turpin at 16%. And as far as Lions, since I haven't pulled up, I'll just read it off. 90% for Amon-Ra St. Brown last week. Laporta at 71%, Josh Reynolds 56%, third on Detroit in terms of route participation in week 16. Jamison Williams 54%, Khalif Raymond 37%, and then the drop down, James Mitchell 17% last week. And as you said, Donovan Peoples-Jones ran 3 rounds, 7% last week. So there you have it.
What got a target? What got a target?
But he did get a target. All right. Well, we got to let producer Jacob get out of here, EMac. I think you did a good job of going over the slate quickly. Any other notes for you, EMac, before we close up the show?
Nope, other than Detroit is ahead 52-44, and nobody has come off the bench in the next game.
All right, you got that one right. I'm losing that one so far. I still think Toronto comes back and wins that game. All right, thank you guys very much for hanging out. Really appreciate you watching the show. Hopefully we can win some. Hopefully Jalen Brunson comes back, starts doing things. Thanks for watching, guys, and good luck tonight.